afternoon, and good morning for those who are joining us from North America, of course. And even we have two speakers from North America today. And welcome to our virtual panel in which our esteemed speakers will talk about digitizing the capacity industry. Our speaker for this session will be Ali Amiri, Chief Carrier and Wholesale Officer at Etisalat Group. Cengiz Oztelcan, CEO of GBI. I hope he will join soon. Emmanuel Rochas, CEO of Orange International Carrier. Eric Cevis, President at Verizon Partner Solutions. Eric Handa, CEO and co-founder of AP Telecom. Frédéric Schepens, CEO of MTN Global Connect. We will discuss the topic in depth, talking about the latest development in the wholesale industry, connecting the world through digital infrastructure, on-demand service data, cloud connectivity, reimagining data centers to meet the needs of the new era. What does the future hold for the wholesale industry in terms of data traffic increase? At the end of the panel, the audience will have the chance to ask questions to the panelists in the Q&A session. So please don't push too much. We will give you time to ask and our speaker will answer you. Also, during the session, we will launch a poll to the audience. Make sure to stay connected, not to miss it. Now, before we start, our first question for today, I will give the floor to our panelists so they can introduce themselves. We start by the same order. Ali, please.
I'm Ali Amiri, Group Chief Carrier and Wholesale Service Officer in Etisalat.
So you forget the sequence then? Okay, Eric then. Cevis, Mr. Cevis.
All right, thanks, Tony. This is Eric Cevis. I'm the president of Verizon Partner Solutions. That is the global wholesale arm of Verizon. Glad to be here. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Mr. Handa, the other Eric now.
Thanks, Tony, and special thanks to Telecom Review for the kind invitation. Eric Handa with AP Telecom, and it's a pleasure to be here and look forward to the webinar, the panel session. Thank you.
Thank you. Frédéric.
Oh, I should be the last, no?
Yeah,
Tony, you're mixing up the sequence.
Name starts with F. It's alphabetic. You have to change your name before the session. In fact, I forget Emmanuel. He should be earlier even.
Well, thanks, Tony, and thanks also to Telecom Review for organizing these fantastic panel sessions. It's always extremely fun and enrichful to have them. So my name is Frédéric Schepens. I'm the CEO of MTN Global Connect, and we represent MTN Group from an international wholesale perspective and liaising all the international and national wholesale activities for the group in Africa.
Thank you, Frédéric. Emmanuel, please.
Yes, hello everybody. Very happy to be here today, and thank you, Tony and Telecom Review for this opportunity to discuss about digitalization. I'm Emmanuel Rochas. I'm the CEO of Orange International Carriers, which is the international wholesale arm of Orange in the world.
Cengiz, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Tony, how are you?
You missed a very nice practice session with our esteemed speaker.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of this, but as they say, yeah, I don't need any practice, huh? I can jump right into it.
The practice session is more. It was very rich. We'll tell you after the session. Now we're on public line. Okay, please introduce yourself.
All right, so my name is Cengiz. I'm the CEO of Gulf Bridge International, GBI. We are a privately owned submarine cable operator. Mainly our network is around the GCC with an extension into India and also to Europe. So we are well positioned to provide a bridge between not only between Asia and Europe, but also for any traffic that comes in and out of the Middle East in all directions. We've been in business for almost a decade, a little over a decade, serving a number of clients, number of customers on the enterprise side, wholesale side, OTT side. So happy to be here with esteemed friends from the industry, and really talking about this key topic of what the future and what we can do to make this industry even operate more effectively and efficiently going forward.
Thank you. Now we'll go to our first question. With over 18 months of pandemic, how digital acceleration and customer behavior change on the long run impact the wholesale and capacity industry? I would like to start this question with you, Ali, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you very much, and glad to be speaking, and hoping that soon we will get over and become all face-to-face, since otherwise, Tony, you will take this and pull us every time you want. Normally you do it in December, and with virtual, so it is easy, and we are in these meetings. It's good, but we are not back to normal. We want to be back to normal. That's the good thing about it. Okay,
we're looking to see you, all of you, on December 8th.
Very good. I think this, and again, the question related with pandemic also, we want to get it over, so that again, it will not be, but we cannot, because this pandemic stayed with us for long. And I think that definitely impacted all of us and everything, in behavior, and I think in eating as well, and leave alone traveling, which the only thing that we had to behave ourselves. So I think, having said that, the customer behavior definitely this 18 months or so changed a lot. Maybe much of us, or a lot of us, maybe we were at least doing things online. But this pandemic forced all of us to do it. And I remember even now we are on Teams, Zoom, and all. Believe it or not, prior to pandemic, a lot of people, I think, including much of us, I mean, that did not know Teams usage or Zoom or this, but now it became part of our system. So I think this impact, together with, because we had to do all this work from home, but there were always in the past, people used to do a lot of things online. And that's what we see very much in the e-commerce. I mean, I will share you one page, in fact, showing you what happened to the people's behavior in terms of buying when during this 18 months, and we are in the areas of 40, 50% or 30% increase in this area. I think it's good to show that page, maybe just one page. I don't want to bore everybody. I liked it, so I said I'll share it with you. Hopefully I am okay in Zoom, because normally I'm used to Teams. I hope it will fly. Yes, we are there. You see it clearly, please?
Yes.
You see, in summary, pre-COVID 2019, 13.6% of global purchases were made online. Post-COVID, 19.5% are made online. 43% growth in just 2 years. This is the summary. The rest, you can see it yourself. Of course, in travel, mobility, and accommodation, all, it had to go down because minus 50%. But when you see, for example, furniture and appliances, plus 20%, fashion and beauty, plus 27%, and toys and hobbies, plus 25%, and so on. So I think you could read it yourself, how interesting it is. And I'm sure this is one source, but there could be other areas. So back to screen. So I think this is the area where this behavior impacted many things. I mean, leave alone all the work from home, and as we are today, our conferences run by this. Now, sort of, if the question was, I think, Tony, what the question was that, what is this impact on what happened over this in our businesses? I think I lost your sound here. Tony?
Tony's on mute, but we can hear you.
You are hearing Tony?
Sorry.
Okay.
I said the question was on the impact of pandemic for the 18 months on the wholesale business.
Exactly.
And deciding, of course, the e-commerce is one of them. This grows online. It needs capacity. It needs connectivity.
Exactly. This is why. This is why the impact on our businesses, I think it was twofold. Maybe in terms of capacities and all, most of us maybe did much better for sure. But on the other hand, there were other services which impacted, which is such as voice, for example. Maybe use of more of all of these collaborative services, various services. I'm sure all of us agree that there was a big impact. And such impacts, I think we have to live with it. Although it will go back. I mean, because we didn't have the mobility, then we didn't have much of roaming people, no roamers. And all these roamers used to generate much of voice business. For that, I think our businesses were impacted quite a lot. But then again, also, there was much more and more digitalized in terms of cloud usage. And all these increase in capacities necessitated increase in data centers and usages. So I think this is just to give chance to others to talk as well. This is some, and net, I mean, we were impacted in areas positively, but overall you could say that these changes, we have to live with it. And I think we are going to live with it to a good extent for some time to go.
Thank you, Ali. Eric, Verizon, I can say. You would like to comment on this?
Yes, absolutely, Tony. And once again, thanks Telecom Review for hosting this session. As we think about these 18 months at Verizon alone, I mean, clearly we think the pandemic accelerated digital transformation for enterprises of all sizes, candidly. Specifically, it kind of changed not only the fact that most workforces kind of were immediately dispersed from our offices, but the manner in which the businesses interacted with our consumers changed, as Ali had indicated there. Clearly, we believe all of our customer experiences kind of were disrupted by this kind of major way out of necessity due to distributed workforces, because we clearly knew with social distances, people working from home, we even had our union employees within a week, 99% of them working from home. But as to your question about wholesale and the capacity industry, we can clearly continue to look at our products and the solutions that we could put forward to really enable, Tony, this kind of mass digitalization of our business processes. So put a lot of capital dollars into IT systems, portals and APIs, allowing a lot more kind of self-service type of operations so that we could keep connectivity going. We also increased our network capacity. I think Ali alluded to that as well. We put a lot more minutes of use on the board than we had originally forecasted, as more and more folks were, doing business, through telecommunications. We also, invested in platforms like Blue Jeans, a video conferencing platform, which allowed a lot of distance learning with schools that we had across the globe, or people working from home more and more. And so with distance learning, we found that it was really important that we continue to find ways to make it easy for our customers to do business. So as I said, voice traffic spiked, our data bandwidth increased. So we had to push a lot more bandwidth in a shorter period of time. And then candidly, the investments I've been making from a Verizon standpoint over the years really started paying off during the pandemic, because we had been on this customer digital transformation journey for several years now, and really got to the point where we really leveraged the fact that those investments made a lot of sense. So as we look at kind of the future, I think in the whole wholesale and capacity industry, one could argue it's somewhat uncharted waters. But once again, Tony, I believe because investments we made in, basically digital transformation, customer ease of doing business, it's continued to allow us to get work done, even in a remote environment. And the last comment I would make, we found enterprises, took a little delay kind of getting back into the workforce. Small and medium businesses, some of those did not even survive, but we're finding new businesses and more ways to get to consumers going forward as we've all learned to adapt and be adjustable to continue to move our business forward, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And in fact, the video conferencing, I guess, even after the pandemic, it will be kind of part of our life. Frédéric, can you like to comment on this?
Yeah, no, I think what is super important is, and it shows again that telecoms and the work we are doing is an essential service. I mean, if we weren't there as an industry in order to fuel and to help overcome this, I mean, it would have been probably a totally different world. So I think even more and more wholesale is more than ever a goalkeeper almost of network availability, quality, reliability. And I think we at MTN Global Connect also with our partners here all around the table, I think we did quite a great way to show that we can build a reliable world. We can build also where distances have been redefined, where we can use and get a lot of this telecommunications anywhere and from everywhere, which is super important also. I think the digital world is also being redefined in the sense that it's an enabler for our daily lives from a professional or from a personal way, and it becomes super central. So I think it's quite exciting. It's quite interesting to see the evolution. Now, from an MTN Global Connect perspective, I mean, we are serving around 270 million subscribers, and we do the interface with all the carriers and partners across the world. We really were leapfrogging a tremendous amount of capacity around the continent there, booting up incremental services and capacity, which has been seamlessly done by the team. So really proud of that. Now, what is also quite important is that we saw a major uptake in security and increased of large activities around that. I mean, we are transforming actually a bit the traditional wholesale business from a traditional, for instance, I think the SMS business to a more authenticating enablement, where we also are playing quite a lot of forefront from an API enablement perspective on the African continent. And this is something which we're really keen in continuing exploring and enabling for our end consumers, but also for our wholesale partners.
Thank you, Frédéric. Eric, AP Telecom. So I will call you like this because we have two Eric today. Do you want to comment on this or no?
Sure. Tony, from a kind of a difference point of view, AP Telecom, we don't own and operate a network. We consult, we offer advisory services. So let me just give you maybe some primary research for the audience, echoing on what some of the other panelists, Eric and Mr. Amiri and Frédéric have mentioned already. We've heard the expression that data is the new oil. And that certainly is prevalent. We've seen networks during the COVID period bend, but not break. But the importance of subsea and terrestrial is critical importance for digital infrastructure. One of the talking points that I specifically wrote down for this webinar was that wholesale will change post-COVID. We're already starting to see that change, maybe not in the Middle East yet, the GCC region, but traditional corridor routes like nylon, New York, London, or LA, Japan, Tokyo, there's been a migration to a screen, a trading platform of some sort. At some point, the SG&A, the headcount from a sales perspective to service selling wholesale IPLCs or Ethernet over international private line circuits doesn't really justify the cost to service the product. The answer is very much no in terms of what we see. When you're selling a circuit that's pretty much stitched up, that's a normal plug and play circuit, that's $2,000 or $1,800 a month, having a direct dedicated account manager servicing that doesn't make sense. And that shift is going to come to the Middle East region probably sooner rather than later. So that's something maybe as a takeaway that we could leave the audience with today. The last 2 points that I probably just want to convey is the need for a carrier of last resort. As things become more commoditized, there are platforms that are developing from an exchange perspective. We look at Mark is in here from PCCW, but we look at Console Connect. They're fulfilling that role sort of as the carrier of last resort, where you can actually get service that's highly automated through an SDN platform. And just as the voice industry had to adapt, the data industry is going to have to adapt very quickly. There is still a tremendous amount of demand, but the downward kind of not happy smiley face there is that price erosion and Moore's Law continues to be very prevalent. And a lot of the carriers that are on this call probably are seeing that as their demand profile goes up, they continue to see strong price erosion. And unfortunately, to all the gentlemen that are on the call and those that are dialing in, we're fighting gravity. So unless we become more efficient using technology, using a screen to migrate to a platform, when a 100 gig circuit or 10 gig circuit is $1,000 a month, it doesn't make sense to have someone service that the traditional way of selling that we've been doing the last 100 years. So those are some points that I'd just like to leave the audience.
Thank you, Eric. Cengiz, how it was the influence of this 18 months of pandemic to your business?
Tony, so a lot of the gentlemen shared their views, right? I kind of try to look at it from
this is why I changed the angle.
From our industry's perspective, right? I mean, if you kind of look at the history, you're right, we initially had the wave of the social media companies, right, really driving this demand, and then came the cloud, right? But this pandemic, it didn't really bring a new technology per se, but I think what it's going to bring is a new breed of potential hyperscalers and OTTs, right? I mean, in today's world, I mean, we're just talking about Zoom, right? Zoom has, over a few weeks become a global company versus a very niche US-centric company. We're looking at a company like Shopify today, right? Who's going out there to challenge Amazon on e-commerce, right? We're looking at a company called Fastly today, right? Who's really trying to disrupt the CDN industry. So I think from an industry perspective, what at least I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify these next tier of OTTs and hyperscalers that will really become very large companies, just like the big five that we have, the FANG that we have today, right? And we need to be ready to service these companies, just like we are servicing to Facebook's and Microsoft and Google's today. So again, that's how I kind of look at this whole pandemic and trying to really understand, which companies will really come out of this pandemic as global potential next breed of hyperscalers, and we're trying to really establish, our network, our business to start talking to them and really apply some of the learnings that we got from the initial round of hyperscalers onto the next tier.
Thank you. Now I will go with my question to Emmanuel. I didn't forget you, but I prepared something very rich. With consumer demand changing, how important it's for operator to become a one-stop shop that provides this digital experience for its consumers, and then what expectations from the market and your customers as well. I guess Eric, he mentioned little about the blue jeans. This is what to make also one-stop shop, in fact. So, Emmanuel, from your perspective and Orange perspective as well.
Yes, thank you, Tony. I remember, Tony, when I in the mid of the 90s, I was a student at the time, and I heard Nicolas Negroponte from the MIT introducing the notion that everything, whatever can be digital, will become digital, and this is exactly what we live today, and this trend is accelerating even with the past 18 months of the COVID crisis. And finally, we don't talk about books or music or video now. It's really critical and vital activities which are moving digital and even in the cloud. And this is creating for us a major opportunities in industry. As what we see here is that our activities are really recognized as Frédéric mentioned, essential. It's even vital facilities, and we have extremely strong expectations from all the players in the society and the economy about what we can produce. And from my perspective, this is moving us away from an increased commoditization of our business, of our connectivity, and creating opportunities for opening new spaces of value creation. But this is also creating a challenge for us individually and as an industry in terms of transformation, in particular digitization. If we want to provide to our customers what they expect, which is more quality, more capacity, of course, more reliability, more simplicity, more responsiveness, and on-demand capabilities, we need to transform and we need to digitize. We need to do it individually on each in our companies, but we need also to do it as an industry, as what is critical for industry for decades is interoperability and our ability to interconnect. And this is what we need also to do in the way we digitize and transform our businesses. So that's really critical. And you mentioned the one-stop shop approach, and we see emerging in our industry a need for having a kind of platform offers on the market to enable our customers to focus on their core business and have at their disposal a proposal which does not oblige them to manage a number of different providers and services. So this platform approach is really a requirement, an increasing requirement in our industry, and this platform approach needs to be built together by the industry by interconnecting the different approach and offers that we have to answer our customer needs.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Frédéric, do you want to add something on this? What about MTN Global Connect?
Yeah, no, I mean, we were relatively young in the old wholesale industry with a lot of experience, though, and we started consolidating as a one-stop shop quite a lot of our activities. I still remember about 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, every single operations we have, and we've got more than 20 or 22 of them at that time, we're starting negotiating with Verizon, with Eric, with everybody else, with Emmanuel, individual roaming agreements, which was just madness. And today we consolidated all of that, and then also with Emmanuel, we just signed a new GSMA AA73 hub agreement. And this is really translating into something which helps streamline, digitize, simplify a lot of this end-to-end capability. Because, I mean, we just launched, to give you an example, with Smart Philippines, 5G roaming. At the moment we are ready with our 5G networks in Africa, automatically we will be able to do that with Verizon, with Orange, with everybody else, instead of going through the painful work of doing that operation by operation by operation. The same is with the clearing and the settlement. The same is with contract management. All of that has been a fantastic roller coaster and enhanced quite a bit that setup. So we took strategically the decision to build state-of-the-art platform as a services enablements. If you're talking from an API perspective, if you're talking about signaling perspective, messaging, roaming, voice, etc., which is kind of the new way of interoperability, the new way of driving more efficiencies. Now, the last, what we are doing now also is completely refurbishing, reconverting our fixed, let's say, capacity business, where we are driving it as a zero-touch network. And when you talk about a zero-touch network, it means that the end-to-end capabilities needs to be really top-notch. And this is not just having the seamless interfaces in your data centers, but also when anybody would like to upgrade a 1 gig to 100 gig to even more, it can be done almost from behind your laptop instead of going through these very cumbersome ways of trying to upgrade the network. So all of that is being really thought through. All of that is quite an enabler from a one-stop shop perspective. And I think it's a great progress in this industry to do that. So yeah.
Thank you, Frédéric. Ali, do you want to add something about the one-stop shop?
Yes, I think one has to be this, that, and telcos, unfortunately, we have been sometimes, or most of the time, maybe as slaves rather than master. You know, we have to this master-slave things. So I think taking it from the customer point of view, even as I said before the pandemic, they had these services with others, even with if it is ordering something through Amazon or any other service, even Uber service and all. The experiences that people had is somehow quite advanced compared to some telcos. And I think that's really quite important, that how we make that for customer service, so that they feel that when they approach any telco, they do it one-stop shop. They can do order online. They know where their order is. They know what the price is, their simplicity in price, their number of things, you know what I mean? So what does this mean? It means that the tools that today being used by much of the hyperscalers or OTTs or whatever, we have to be really on the top of it. For as long as we are not on the top of it, we always struggle. So it's like someone that walking and someone is running. So others will be running and we will be walking. I don't know how we catch, but this is the problem we are facing. And this is the reality. So this is what I see. But most of us, at least within Etisalat, this has been felt. We are moving. Today, for example, if you look at Etisalat stores, more than 50% of all our stores are transformed to digital environment, where a customer could go in and do not interact with anyone, get whatever you want online, and this, to the extent that even your SIM card you get dropped for you. This is experience that I had. So another thing is that you could also order your equipment. Sometimes maybe you go and collect the mobile or whatever. But I'm saying that we have gone too far. But then again, it's more and more to do, I think, in that regard. So we have to be critical on ourselves in this area to do more and more.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Eric, Verizon. Okay, because you talk indirect about this, but can you comment what is your plan or Verizon strategy on this?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I echo the comments that Frédéric and Ali have put forward. But once again, I've taken us from no longer looking at us as a telco or not looking at us as a technology company. I mean, we're operators in this one-stop shop environment today. And as operators, clearly we've got to do scenario planning, thinking out 5, 10 years, and making sure we're caring for those needs today. So we continue, I think, on our side of Verizon, talking about how do you treat every experience as though everyone was born digital? And, you know, we probably would have never had that conversation years ago, candidly even months ago. But now, how do you interface and interact with everyone on a more of a digital standpoint and providing them a superior digital experience? As I said earlier, we've put a lot of investment in our roadmap relative to making customer experience transformation a reality, you know, with APIs and portals and ease of doing business. The work we do with MEF, really, so that we can look at a standards base so that industry-wide, as operators, how do we all scale together? Not building out our own proprietary nature, but doing something that allows us to be more open source with a standards base so that all of us can scale and meet our customers where they are. And then to Ali's point, thus we don't just crawl, we don't just walk, we actually run, because we're looking at a standards-based way of making a digital experience and creating more interoperability. Even the work that we do, Tony, with the Global Leaders Forum, I mean, it's more of that kind of conversation. How do we scale? How do we make sure digital transformation is a reality for all of our customers going forward? And do it at kind of a low incremental cost, but once again, operators showing significant growth in opportunities. Because ease of business, as I said earlier, it's a top priority right now. And businesses that don't disrupt themselves will get disrupted, is kind of the phraseology we use in Verizon. And thus, we're up to the challenge of disrupting ourselves, creating more of an ease of business, putting capital investments in there so that we can continue to make this journey for interoperability, digital ease of business, and customer experience transformation as we move forward, to make certain that the whole world can evolve to more of a digital experience going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Now I will jump to new questions. I will start with you, Cengiz. Digital infrastructure is gaining a lot of focus. What are the right regulatory and industry policies that need to be established to encourage infrastructure investment?
Tony, so you know, I'm not a regulator myself, but we work very closely with the regulators on many topics, right? And
exactly, you can make statement about your needs at least.
yes. So usually, what I found is that, you know, regulators in general are quite conservative, right? They're not, and I'm not putting any particular regulator on the spot here, but usually they're not too open to progressive digitalization efforts or improvements. Many kind of like wait and see. Some other maybe neighboring countries or some other regulators that they kind of watch and try to learn from. So it becomes a very tricky and very long process to really convince them in the fact that as we're moving down along this journey, right, trying to really create an environment where, you know, every country in the world today is trying to become a digital hub, right? This is on everybody's agenda. You know, we're trying to attract digital players into the countries, but what we're trying to achieve usually does not match well with the environment that we invite them to, right? And that's due to the fact that there is, at least in my you know, rough ballpark estimation, 3 to 5 years of difference between the most leading edge regulators and the most leading edge companies in our industry. So how do we really close that digital divide between what's being done in practice and what's being supported by the regulators is the real question for me, right? And how do we really educate them? What I found out is that it's really we need to, in a given country or in a given region, I think it depends on certain alliances that we need to form with our partners here, that such that the regulators keep hearing the same and similar messages from not only one party, but from all parties, and all parties really put the pressure and the importance of these initiatives onto the regulators to create an environment that's easier for us to operate on. And this is, from a legal perspective, it goes as basic as providing a safe harbor type environment to the players, and also making sure that any investments that we make today are not going to be changed. It's a forward-looking protection, so to speak, right? That they're not going to be declared non-compliant or obsolete by any regulator actions in the future, right? I think that's one thing that I put a lot of emphasis on, that we may put something on our roadmap, technology roadmap, that we're going to do, and it may look like this is going to be supported by the regulators, but we all know that things could change overnight in the minds of the regulators, and they can really dictate some severe measures on operators and companies like us, right? So how do we ensure that our roadmap is sort of like protected by the actions of the regulators moving forward? And it all starts with a dialogue and really convincing points that anything that we're trying to do here is usually for the goodness of the countries that we are present in, and the regions that we're operating in, and really trying to take the quantum leap to the next generation.
Thank you. Eric, AP Telecom is doing a lot of advisory. What do you think about this strategy toward operator investing in the infrastructure?
Well, we have to be careful. We have a lot of government clients from South America, Asia, that we don't want to offend.
Okay.
No, in all seriousness, Tony,
we don't say about any country. We say global.
No, we'll keep it very vague. But
you're safe.
It's a really good question, and it's challenging because the regulator is dealing with an animal, a telco, that traditionally has sold access. And selling access, you want to sell at the highest prices possible. And then the OTTs, as my esteemed colleague from GBI mentioned, come in and they want the lowest price possible per megabit. They want low cost of access because they're not in the access business of selling access. And the regulator kind of is, caught in between to some extent. So there's probably no easy answer, but one thing is for certain, that there is a direct correlation, and we can quantify this from primary and secondary research, that the cost of connectivity, the speed of connectivity, dictates whether a city or a country will be a hub. A regional hub will be able to support certain industries such as finance, such as banking, such as manufacturing, et cetera. So connectivity can't be so stifled in terms of a duopoly or a triopoly that there isn't enough competition, but there's a fine line between how much competition there is and how much competition there isn't. And there's really no right formula, but in general, Tony, what we see is that it's a very challenging, hard situation, because if you look at historically, tourism, trade, and telecom, the 3 T's, constitute a large portion of a country's national output, their GDP. And you don't want to go in and cannibalize your telecom revenue, because you may have mutiny on your hands. You want to lay off 5,000, 10,000 people and dry up that tax source of revenue. So it's a fine line. What do you replace it with? If voice is dying, or other aspects of a telco's business are not doing well, you have to replenish that with revenue that is going to come in to make sure that telco continues to grow. So it's not an easy answer. A lot of regulators in general lack industry experience. So I think training and education is quite critical to work with the regulator to get them up to speed as to what does this glorified utility, telecoms, face. We're not a water company. We're not a power company. But we offer a utilitarian product that is similar to water and power, but we're also forced with tremendous competition, that the water and the power industry doesn't have 19 operators vying for competition. So the telcos in general are faced with a very, very challenging survival. One comment that I would make is that we're seeing a trend globally, and it may not be in the Middle East and the GCC region currently, but it may come into play, of consolidation. We've seen that here in North America. We continue to see that on a global scale. The PTC Academy, Gary Kim, who's a well-known author for commentary in the telecom industry on a global basis, as well as in North America and Canada and the US, has talked about consolidation. And we're going to continue to see more consolidation by 2030. The number is expected to decrease the number of global telcos by at least 30 to 35%.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for this facts. Now I will ask Eric, Verizon, what do you want to say about that?
Well, as my peers have said on the panel, it's a loaded question on the regulatory policy side of things, and clearly we must cooperate together in order to advance the conversation we've had so far today, to be very candid. And I think there's more and more an appreciation for that with our regulatory bodies, kind of in partnership. We look at things like even rural broadband, realizing how do we make sure that everyone has the bandwidth they need across the globe, across the world. And those type of regulatory partnerships will continue to help advance the things that we're doing going forward. Even Telecom Review, Tony, as we think about 5G and the investment we're making in 5G, public information, we spent what, $53 billion on 5G spectrum to take us through C-band. And as we look at our C-band investment there, at the end of the day, clearly that comes with good collaboration and good partnership and recognizing in the industry and in the regulatory bodies that we need to make certain that we can allow communications to happen across the globe. And so, I get excited about, the collaboration, the partnership. We all must do our due diligence at the end of the day, as clearly regulatory bodies are, protecting, the interests of the consumer. At the same time, we in business are looking to get that win-win proposition between, what we do from a regulatory standpoint and what we do for our end users. Also, Tony, I would mention the work that we do in sustainability. I mean, that's another one of those examples. Clearly, we're doing a lot in, say, C-band and our 5G and our multi-access edge computing networks to make certain that we can bring communications across the globe. But even with 5G and another $1 billion green bond we put forward, these are kind of things that I think show the environment that not only are we trying to expand communication and the infrastructure, but we're trying to do it in a sustainable way to kind of care, for the environment going forward. And so as we look to partner with the regulatory environments, continue to build out our infrastructure, outside of the 50-some billion we put in C-band spectrum this year alone, we put about 17 to $18 billion annually into this environment. And with that type of investment, clearly it's a partnership with the regulatory environments at the end of the day to make certain that it's a win-win environment so that we all can kind of expand ourselves and move forward on this digital journey. It's kind of my perspective, Tony. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I guess they saying that the new oil is the data, but it's always for the oil for the regulator is selling spectrum, so it's normal. Emmanuel, from your point of view, especially in Europe, and you have regulation centralized in Brussels, how do you comment on this?
Well, on the market, there is a lot of demand for capacity, and there is a lot of people ready to invest in infrastructure today. And what is clear is the two major enemies from a regulatory point of view to those investments is one is heterogeneity in our international business, and the second one is volatility. So we cannot make any kind of reasonable investment if we're not, and this is what Cengiz was mentioning before, if we're not knowing what will be the regulation tomorrow. So that's really, and this is the key message we pass to our regulators in Europe. Even if we have I would say a single regulator, we still have national regulators in Europe, and we need to pass the message to all of them that we need to have a kind of stability in the framework that they give us to invest, so that we can invest knowing what's in the end the business case will be. And from an industry point of view, and I join Eric on that point of view, is that we were mentioning the platform or the one-stop shop approach. I'm fully convinced that there will be no one single one-stop shop in the market tomorrow, and even in 5 years' time, but a number of one-stop shops, and those one-stop shops needs to be working on the kind of same basis. So we still need to work in the GLF community and other forums to continue to coordinate on the way we implement this digitalization and this transformation, so that we can go fast enough and not create different worlds or different customer journeys which are not talking to each other. So that's the work on APIs that we're doing, the work on standardization of the interfaces that we're doing within the industry is really critical, so that we can go fast enough to follow the requirements of the market and our customers.
Thank you. Now we'll go to other questions. Frédéric, what do you think the demand for on service that would present a genuine breakthrough for enterprises that need fully flexible connectivity solution?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So, of course, I mean, from an enterprise perspective, MTN Global Connect is serving not only the enterprise within MTN, but also within the rest of the world, where we are kind of considered as a B end, because Africa usually receives a lot of requests from Eric, from Emmanuel, from the rest of the world, in order to make sure that we've got reliable services on the African continent. And there we certainly are there to fuel that to the increased one-stop shop enablement we've done. And if you talk about connectivity, if you talk about data center services, products which are there. Also, what is quite interesting is that the moment you start also continue the automation and the digitization programs, it has a strong play to continue customizing the future needs of our enterprise services. What we do see is that there is a gravitation to sometimes best effort services, which we can't really give, but into lower priced services, because everything goes through the internet nowadays, and people tend to forget, hey, it works or it doesn't work. And quite interestingly, we all noticed yesterday a big void from a social media or social enablement perspective, where we saw a completely switched off by one of the largest OTTs in this world. And people seem to cope with that in one way or another. But whenever I can't deliver for 5 or 6 hours of services, I mean, hell breaks loose. And we offer, of course, the quality of service. We offer, of course, the reliability, and we offered also the consistency to offer fundamental core business services to the world. And I think that's something we shouldn't be forgetting, and is crucial also for business continuity purposes across the world and in Africa, which we are supplying mainly.
Thank you, Frédéric. Now we launch the poll from the audience. So we'll have the questions, they will have time to vote on our questions. Ali, do you want to comment on the same question from Frédéric, which was answered by Frédéric?
And I think overall, I mean, anything to do with self-service provisioning and more of online usage and online portals, I think that's quite important because at the end of the day, customer, as I said, we commented earlier, customer, they need to see a change, and as you mentioned, it's anything to be on demand, to be really on demand. So it's not that you are not able to see your service when it's going to be provisioned. You are not going to see what is the bandwidth that you could be using or the service you could be using. You have to have this self-service provisioning to a good extent, some control within the customer. I think customer will appreciate it. And then those feelings goes with the same feelings that maybe the customer having with other providers or OTTs or hyperscalers.
Thank you, Ali. Cengiz, you want to add something from point of view of the Middle East area, at least, GCC?
Yeah, Tony, it's a very simple addition from my end, right? I mean, a lot of the enterprises, businesses, and needs are getting more and more complex, right? And it's a seesaw reaction, right? As those things get complex, more and more complex, they want simplicity in other ways of operation. So, as far as I can understand, they don't even want to hear the word connectivity. They don't even want to hear to do anything with it, right? They want to just by default take it as 100% SLA, 100% working, and very in a very simple way. So at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, this is as the world gets more and more complex, we need to really simplify our operations, our offerings, and make sure that we get used to running in the background, right? Rather than really becoming more visible, because as they say, we're like the firefighters, right? If you don't hear the fire siren, it's good to go, right? We're kind of like in the same domain.
Thank you. Straight to the point. Eric, from Verizon point of view, what do you offer to your enterprise?
Yeah, it's an interesting question you put out there on this on demand. And Tony, I always look at this as more of network as a service. We speak about that so much in Verizon at the end of the day, and it is network as service. Also, we're doing some work in network slicing. And clearly we see this kind of represent kind of a genuine breakthrough for enterprises going forward with our network to service evolution and kind of leveraging network slicing to provide kind of more connectivity. I heard the question mark that allow us to talk about is connectivity, but allows that flexibility and kind of really optimizes kind of our enterprise network OpEx as well as our CapEx spending, and really kind of minimize kind of waste and support on-demand service requirements, really, and stop technology obsolescence, I think is the real key there for Tony, for us. And so we get it. We kind of go with this kind of pay as you use it type of value proposition. Within my own global wholesale organization of Verizon Partner Solutions, we implemented what we call Dynamic Network Manager. And it's kind of like a self-service on-demand service that kind of gives our customers the ability at the end of the day to increase or decrease their bandwidth in near real time or schedule future changes that they want. So this, we believe, allows our customers kind of monitor their utilization, maybe set notifications, and really this is something we offer on our PIP as an internet and Ethernet services. So we're kind of embracing this on-demand culture and services in the Verizon footprint from a telecom standpoint, Tony.
Thank you, Eric. So because time is squeezing us, so we have to move to another question. What does the future hold for the wholesale industry in terms of data traffic increase and data center? Eric, AP Telecom, as a global consultant in the wholesale, it's for you now to start.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. We're fairly bullish on the future of growth, but we're not bullish on the future of margin or price erosion. The current cost structure that many wholesale operators have is not conducive to servicing the reality of price erosion. And all the operators that are on the call and globally will potentially be victims of consolidation or consolidators. The reality is that with the decrease in pricing, the increased competition, the ability for enterprise buyers to require them to be serviced like a wholesale customer, which is happening. That is a phenomenon that's happening globally, is going to continue. So there's a lot of challenges, and the lean, the mean, and the agile will do well, but they need to be able to support the reality of the new cost structure. I think Frédéric made a great point, and Eric referenced the online portal. Getting folks to go to a portal to self-serve themselves for upgrades, for the ability to turn capacity up and down is critical. You cannot service someone as a profitable business selling a $2,000 a month 10 gig or 100 gig circuit. It is just not possible. We may want to go back to the old days of ITW and PTC, all hanging out at the top of the bar or at the Wordman at the Marriott in DC, and think of the Kumbaya, the good days. But the reality is we can still do that, but we're going to need to use technology to be able to do that. And we're going to have to really scale automation and technology. That's the key determinant that we see from our point of view from an advisory standpoint.
Thank you, Eric. Frédéric.
Yeah, no, I mean, from an MTN perspective, we saw quite some significant growth the last couple of years. And thanks to the adequate strategy we laid out also. From a Global Connect perspective, we actually grow 50% from the revenue and EBITDA perspective compared to last year. So thanks to the team and our partners to accompany us on that journey. There's still a long way to go. And we also announced recently in June that we are moving towards an InfraCo, FiberCo setup. So we're really driving and structurally separating all our fiber assets from our mobile operators towards MTN Global Connect, where we do have a proprietary fiber network of 85,000 kilometers of fiber, which we're growing to 135,000 kilometers of fiber, which we open up as an open access model so that everybody really can start benefiting from that in the fuel of the new digitization area, in the fuel of the data growth, where we really are driving also keeping a lot of the traffic on the continent instead of bringing it back and forward unnecessarily to the United States or to Europe. And coming back to Eric's, both Eric's connotation, it's we need to be smarter, more agile in order to make these bucks roll and continue the sustainability of that through our programs. So again, service and at the center of what we do, platform as a services, network as a services, super critical in order to continue this growth industry, I must say, not only from a data explosion, but also at least to sustain and to grow the profitability and the data around it.
Thank you, Frédéric. Ali, do you want to add anything on this?
Well, I mean, the question, if you see, you are talking about the future hold for the wholesale industry in terms of data traffic increase and data centers. So,
and flexibility and connectivity and solution, you know, of course.
You see, I mean, definitely all of us, because of this growth, I mean, if I look at even in our sites in Etisalat, in terms of wholesale, pure wholesale side data centers, we have gone now on fourth, maybe in terms of location and size. So the more of this connectivity and increase in services is really, we have to be up to it. For that purpose, we already have, say, for example, our cable, the Africa One, which is expected to be ready sometimes fourth quarter of 2023. I think all this is as a result of that, and to cater for those growth in both traffic and data center activity. I just wanted to answer in the process one question I saw online that we're ready in terms of during the pandemic, most of the telcos coped for the pandemic itself. What lessons we learn in terms of being ready for the future? As I said, I mean, this is again, it's a right question because it shows that you have to be ready, not only in terms of routes and diversities, but also in terms of latencies, because the future services needs better latency. You may be talking about gaming more, you may be talking about various services. So it is not that only you have links or connectivity, but you have to be quite selective. And in terms of capacity, it could be multi-pair of fibers, So submarine, terrestrial, and all. So I think this is important from that aspect.
Thank you, Ali. Just for our audience, because we have over 64% participated on the poll. So please continue answering the poll, all of you, so we can at least read the polling result after the last question. So now I will go to last question. Emmanuel, I will address this straight to you. Beyond what has been said previously, what will bring back growth in the telecom industry?
Well, you know, when we look at the data traffic, and we see that in the past 2 years, 90% of all the data. Yes.
I just want to put a pen, because this is a very, very, very specific question that everyone needs an answer. So I think I will be writing what you say then.
No, I can send you. We're recording the session. I can send you what he's saying. And besides this, tomorrow, you will have e-newsletter from Telecom Review about all this point. So it's good you say this. We will highlight what Emmanuel was saying. Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Keep going, please.
High pressure on me. I was stating that traffic, the global data traffic is exploding. We know that, and 90% of the traffic we see today has been created in the past 2 years. And this is going to continue, with 5G, with IoT, and we know all the evolutions in the technology that will drive that. But in the end, the value will not be created, and the growth will not be created by increase of traffic, because we are still in this squeeze because at the end of the chain, the end customers, they're not ready to pay for more data. They're ready to pay for more services. And so in the end, traffic will not drive the growth of our industry. But I think that the value will be in the services that we will be able to deliver on this connectivity. And what we mentioned before in terms of on demand, on digital experience, is something that creates value for our customers and will increasingly create value for our customers. And last week I was on my PVR and it was saturated. It took me 2 clicks and 5 minutes to upgrade it and get more capacity on it. And this is really the dream that I have, is to be able to deliver this type of experience to my customers. We've started to do it at Orange with IP Transit, with EVPL, which is now on demand with APIs, including the local loop on our Orange countries. But we still have a world of opportunities in front of us, and in particular coming from the virtualization of networks and network functions. And we see the potential of that. We have started at Orange a major transformation project on our international networks to give a unique infrastructure for the B2B and for the carrier markets, have a common infrastructure, and on this build a layer of virtualized services functions that we can build on demand and open in self-service through APIs to our customers. And this is really the future. This is really where we will be able to create new value on top of our, I would say, legacy activity, which is bringing connectivity to the world.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Eric, from Verizon point of view, also, I want to answer what this make the growth, future growth for telco.
Yeah, I love the question. I, like Ali, picked up my ink pen, so I can.
No more digital with Ali.
I'll get the recording.
No more.
I'll get the recording later, but I want to do it real time.
Generation. With all digital, we have the pen. We have one here. I have one here.
Exactly. I'm glad it's being recorded. Let me add a few comments too, because I agree Emmanuel's thought process 100%. But I continue to believe that our products and services, will kind of build to the top of the network. We're going to be a network as a service provider. And as we continue to move from TDM to IP to more and more work that we're doing on our wireless networks, that evolution is going to continue to pan itself out. More and more applications are moving to wireless. If we look at what we're doing from a 5G LTE standpoint, fixed wireless access, wireless backup services, And then I would add above the network services, as we talked about the video conferencing type of unit activity with the Blue Jeans and the like, IoT. We're seeing, billions of dollars of opportunities and RFPs coming forward on Internet of Things as we continue to build out our use cases there. Security continues to build, whether it's our DDoS or our network detection response services. Cybersecurity is still a threat out there. And so, similar to the points Emmanuel added, I would just continue to add that the evolution in the industry is going to continue to pan itself forward. We still have a lot of users on TDM services. We're going to continue, I think, the evolution to IP with our internet and our Ethernet services with good broadband growth taking place there. And then the wireless evolution will continue to play out as we kind of move forward in the fourth industrial revolution and take advantage of the use cases that we can get from an LTE and a wireless standpoint. And we'll continue to move that, as we call it, moving up the stack and offering kind of more useful applications, and continue to grow and expand data center presence, kind of higher bandwidth capabilities are going to continue to grow. And these are the things that I'm looking forward to, building our industry business plan on, so we can continue to see growth in the telecom space.
Oh, very good. This is good news for all of us, I guess. Wishful thinking. Thank you, Eric. Cengiz, do you want to add something about this also?
Yeah, Tony, I'll add something about this, but I also want to go back to your previous question about the wholesale industry and this increased data traffic, how it's going to impact us, right? And I'll open a wager here that in the next year or two max, you will have a participant, a guest from one of the satellite companies in your panel. That's gonna be a major impact into our industry,
yeah,
right?
In fact, we had 2 weeks ago panel with SES and Telcom about this. In fact,
yep.
We did already 2 weeks ago webinar with SES.
So I was one of the few that probably made it to ITW this year, right? I didn't get a chance to see many of you, but what I noticed is that the likes of OneWeb, SpaceX, Starlink, Laserlight, all these low orbit satellite companies are gonna make a pretty strong entry into our market, right? And they will overcome the two biggest issues that previous satellite companies had, which was latency and high prices, right? So I think their business models will and their technology will mature enough that they will compete with us in terms of latency and reliability, and also price points will start converging. So again, as a wholesale industry, I think we need to be ready to welcome some new friends into the roundtables moving forward. So
I agree with you.
Yep. And your last question about the telco industry, I think the question, it said a little bit semantically, it said what will bring back growth, right? I think the telco industry already has growth, right? So we're not lacking any growth. We're going to continue to grow. And very fundamentally, what has fueled that growth has been the globalization, right, around the world, right? Is people, companies, countries, everybody going to that globalization, which seems to be continuing, right? But in addition to that, I think this globalization took a little bit of a pause over the pandemic. Then this increased data consumption came due to many reasons that we've been discussing for the last hour and a half. But I think the elasticity on that one is not going to stick, right? The data consumption in terms of video and other services will stay. And when the world goes back to the normal and this whole globalization efforts start picking up where they left off, that's gonna continue to drive the telco industry on a global level, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Eric. AP Telecom opinion.
Yeah. So Tony, to answer your question about growth, there is a lot of concern about the lack of growth of telcos. The numbers don't support some of the comments that are being made. Not to criticize my panelists, but to be very candid, selling access only is a losing proposition. What we see from a very challenging point of view is that more competition is continuing to come in. There's self-cannibalization. There is a need to really diversify from the core of just selling access. So companies like Singtel are starting to partner with insurance companies. They're starting to get into medicine. telehealth benefits, the ability for someone to self-scan themselves at home rather than go to a doctor's office. That's been very prevalent during COVID because of the lack of mobility. But some of the data and the trends are pointing to telcos needing to take aggressive and immediate action to partner and diversify their revenue streams. Selling access only at a dumb pipe in 3 years or 5 years without an appropriate cost structure could be a recipe for disaster. I think the key determinant is isn't there a desire to fund digital infrastructure, as Emmanuel said. There's a tremendous amount of money for digital infrastructure. There's quite a bit. But the reality is that the ROI may not justify some of the private equity returns of 35, 40%. Typically, our industry is hovering around 8 to 10, 12%. So there's a disconnect. From our point of view, AP Telecom would recommend a lot of the telcos start partnering with companies that are seeing growth in areas where they can use digital infrastructure as an enabler for the insurance industry, for the banking industry, for the medicine industry. That may be a way forward. One idea that was mentioned, the Global Leadership Forum, there could be a leadership forum for incubation startups. There's no reason why WhatsApp, which Frédéric mentioned went down yesterday, couldn't have been created within one of these respective telcos. The platform and voice have been done for 100 years by the telecom operators on the call, but self-cannibalization didn't want to happen because people were holding on to the bitter end. So there needs to be a need to look at things more progressively and to say, I'm going to get out in front of the curve in order to enable growth. The term and the concept of, I think someone mentioned MIT and one of the famous professors there, but Greenspan, former chairman of the Fed, mentioned creative destruction. Creative destruction is needed in order to achieve growth for the telcos. So I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Eric. And this is why our today webinar is very rich, because we have diversification of opinion. We're not all from telcos from all one side. So thank you for this. Frédéric, how you see the future of telcos also?
I think
future growth.
Yeah, the future growth is with a big bang, I would say. No, I think it's changing quite a bit. And when I look through my looking glass in my network, and when you look at pre-COVID and nowadays, we are actually growing and see more activity than pre-COVID, which is quite interesting, but it's a different activity. So you see perhaps a little bit less of the traditional setup, but more of the new setup. And I think that's an interesting growth where I think we need to capitalize. We need to really be very, very adamant in executing and how we can do that together. And I think what Eric was mentioning was quite interesting also, because partnering with a lot of the OTTs, different breeds, the hyperscalers, will give a new breath to our industry also in a meaningful way. So my view is still that there is a continuation of a massive growth of our essential services. And I think there's a good way in order to tap into that and to monetize it in an intelligent way. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the future, to be frank.
Thank you very much, Eric. Now we will launch the poll. So just to read for the audience also, you see the result, of course. First question, are you still facing mobile data adoption after COVID-19? Yes is 21%, no is 59%, not all time is 21%. Second question, are you making more voice calls than usual after the lockdown ended? Yes, 43%, 57%, no. This is changing really the habit of the consumer. You are using the internet more, single choice, work, especially video conference, 66%. Video streaming, 21%, social media, 14%. So we'll see the future in the video conference is growing. Are you still using your fixed broadband network at home for work? Yes, 64%. So it means a lot of people still working from home. No, it's 10%. Partially is 26%. So this is the result we share with everyone. And then stop sharing. Let's go to questions. So, okay, for the question, I see that many questions has answered directly by the speaker. But here from Jeff Seal, by the way, question. There is arrangement. There is no need to forward planning in the capacity business that includes standard-based and open-source operations, such as those being developed by MAF. Okay, Jeff, you are promoting MAF today. All of these help to digitize the capacity business. How can we get more of the world capacity provider to work together? Eric, you want to answer, Jeff? Hello?
Which Eric, Tony?
Eric, he addressed to you, in fact.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with MEF, the Metro Ethernet Forum, but for standards. I think capacity providers in general work through the traditional bilateral relationships, bilats. Disruption, I think, is happening enough, Jeff, with price erosion. So I don't think there's been an issue. In all fairness, I know some of the comments were probably harsh and critical, but the networks globally have coped extremely well during this COVID period. A lot of the networks supported e-learning, education, entertainment at home, working from home, what have you. So I think in general, networks have done well. Jeff, you may be able to provide folks more information on that than I can, or some of the other panelists.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, question to Frédéric, MTN, and Eric, Verizon. For most telcos globally, capacity has been commoditized to lowest tariff rate. However, past 2 years, we have enjoyed the 2x factor growth, which has quite significantly provided a great compromise boost to cover the incurred voice business losses. On contrary, with OTT are investing heavily into expansion of submarine networks, trying to catch up with the telco's earnings. It is the time for wholesale telco to embrace change and to go aggressively to address hybrid enterprise markets and offer a one-stop shop offer, which include capacity, hyperscale, managed service package. If yes, can explain the next 5 years from such product perspective and how much percentage growth we can expect in terms of revenue growth if one needed to implement such a strategy. Chachi is long questions. Hopefully the answer will be briefly because we don't have really much time. Frédéric or Eric? Okay, start Eric, please, Verizon. It's to you.
All right, I'll chime in because the typing an answer would have been just too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long speech.
let me voice track it because I think Eric, the other Eric hit on it earlier. Clearly, we've seen the global wholesale industry, has taken some hits from a growth standpoint year over year. I mean, most research would say, you're going to lose about 5% revenue year over year for the next 5 years. What we do at Verizon, and I'm sure my peers on this call are doing, is we're basically saying we must bend that curve and not allow that to happen. And the way we will bend that curve is things like the above the network services that I mentioned earlier, be it security, be it video conferencing, be it IoT. It'll also be the wireless journey that we take because we're offering business internet and fixed wireless access over wireless plans. To the point of the question, looking at partnerships with the hyperscalers, what's going on in the world with Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Netflix. You see a lot of work being done there with AWS and the like. And we'll continue to look at those partnerships to once again show that growth trajectory is still there. I mean, I'm very pleased to sit here and say, we're going to still show, top line and bottom line growth in Verizon in the wholesale business year over year. And that's because we're diversifying our portfolio, not just continue to rest on our laurels for basic network connectivity. We're moving up the network as a service stack, and we're going above the network with partnerships that enable us to get back to growth. So that's kind of how I answer that question, Tony.
Thank you. Frédéric, do you want to add something about what Eric?
No, I think Eric framed it super well. I mean, there's two things I might want to add is just from a hyperscaler perspective and from a combination of the OTTs building out networks, which of course is a fantastic news. And for the last couple of years, we've been partnering with them. And in the latest activity, we've also announced some time ago is the extension of the two Africa submarine cables, which is a great play between the traditional telcos and the OTTs. And just to be very cognizant of that, I mean, the investment needed is quite nice to see that the OTT is also putting skin in the game and massively expanding their networks together with us in order to have really a setup which is sustainable. So from a costing perspective, that lowered it completely already quite a bit. And also from a drive in order to enhance connectivity, I think it's super important to continue that journey also. Now going back to his percentage growth in these new perspective and these new services, I think there is quite a double-digit growth in the coming 2 to 5 years. And I think a lot of us are looking very carefully into implementing that.
Thank you, Frédéric. Emmanuel, if you can elaborate more on the Jeff question of the standardization on the connectivity, such math, if you're familiar with the math.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this with the math work on standardization of APIs for connectivity and this is really well really linked to the question we Frédéric and Eric answered before. So if there is no reason why the one-stop shop or the overall proposition we bring to the market comes from the data centers. It can come as well from the carrier business, and of course to get scale on this, and for the carrier to get scale on this proposition, we need to bring to the market something which is interoperable and working well together. So that's where the MEF work is coming in, and enabling us to aggregate our different capacities everywhere in the world and bring to the market each one of us this one-stop shop value proposition, including as well the connectivity to the cloud and even the cloud in some cases.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I would like to thank each of you for this very rich panel for today. I would like also all the participants for this to make this interactive with their question and with their poll also, or to give us a good idea about what the 100 enterprise is looking for, what the future, about what the habit. So thank you very much. I hope to see all of you in person on December 8th, also in Dubai in our Telecom Youth Summit, the 15th edition. Looking forward to see all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.